We haven't had our souls, our proper souls, back in thousands of years. The idea of soul, it means so many different things to so many different people. We have the religious ideas of soul, and we have the general spiritual ideas of soul. You can't really look at a scientific idea of soul because science wouldn't actually believe that soul exists. So if we're breaking it down in ancient terms, we are looking at water. The word soul is connected to the word sea, S-E-A, not S-E-E. And there are strong implications that the origins of the word were associated with water. Now, this ties in a great deal with the way I've learned about soul. I've studied the soul till it comes out of my ears in a great many ways. This watery context also connects with many ancient myths involving the sea. But I've looked at it from all angles, and the soul in my own culture and family was associated with emotion because it was associated with the earth's water. So if you think of the sea, if you think of rivers, if you think of streams, all flowing through and across the earth, then you could apply the same idea to ourselves, to an individual who has water flowing through them and water flowing within them. Sadly, today, we don't all have water flowing through us because we are rather adept at withholding our emotions or pushing them away. Admittedly, when we have a traumatic experience, that's what we tend to do. But because we go in for withholding emotion, if you like, we become very skilled at not expressing ourselves, then we're withholding our souls. Are we imprisoning our souls somewhere because we do not want to have that water flowing within us? How does it work? If you think about your own emotions flowing through you, how much you do or don't express them, then you may start to understand that the soul is much more malleable, flexible. It's much more flowing, if you like. It's a flowing, moving thing. It's not a static thing. We talk about the soul as if it's some sort of blob. That isn't the way to see the soul. That isn't the way that isn't the ancient way to see the soul. I suppose the word confuses us, the meaning confuses us, the definition has long confused us because religion has been around for so long, and religion has taken charge of the soul, taken charge of our emotions, taken charge of our expression, our feelings, and all sorts of things in many different ways. If you go back pre-religion, then you can imagine an earth without any civilization going on, and you can imagine the waters flowing freely, unpolluted, where you can go and drink from the waters if you need to. So maybe we need to apply our own individuality to that at the moment, is the only way we can see it. That the water is flowing through us unpolluted. Now, is it unpolluted? Do we have unpolluted emotions? The pollution of the waters on our earth isn't at all very pleasant. In fact, it's disgraceful. But are we polluting the water within ourselves when we're harbouring experience or feeling we could do with letting go of? Are we filling ourselves up with what we don't need to have? Are we civilising our souls as much as we try to civilise the earth? What we store within our rivers and within the sea, can we see parallels with what we might store within ourselves? I think we are looking at a new association, a new relationship with soul. We're looking at the idea of it being maybe a little different from the way we have seen it before. And we're looking to reintroduce it into our lives. And if we do reintroduce it, then we certainly need to think water. Thinking about air, earth, fire and water, which is what my great-grandfather said we were composed of. He didn't go in for skin, bone, blood and guts and all that sort of thing. Not that we're not. I mean, we clearly are. But our makeup, the human makeup, is to do with water, is to do with fire. And when we're talking about the soul and its relationship with the sea, its relationship with the waters of the earth, then that's a wonderful idea, isn't it, really? The water flowing through us is the earth's water flowing through us, the earth's emotion. Every time you look at the sea, every time you look at a river, every time you look at a stream, that's the earth's emotion, the earth's watery emotion flowing along. Sometimes it churns, sometimes it's still, sometimes it's just trickling along, sometimes it's a crashing wave. Can't we relate that to our emotions? I can. I can see that if there's a crashing wave, then I'm perhaps feeling quite ferociously angry or something. And perhaps when it's just trickling and bubbling, I'm feeling quite content. Imagine your soul is like a river or a sea. If a part of that river or sea goes missing, which part is it? Can you separate water out from itself? Well, no, you can't. Because if you can, which part is it? Can you separate a wave? Well, you can see a wave, but if you get hold of that wave, it's water like all the rest. We can only separate by using a container, and perhaps we can see parallels with what we've done with our own watery souls. We are no longer part of the great whole of what the emotional soul self used to be. The scene behind me is so very inspiring. Who could fail to be inspired looking at a scene like this? Have a few thoughts about emotion. Have a few thoughts about the water you see on the earth. Go out and look at the water and see what you decide, see what you think for yourself, and liken it to the water that's within yourself. And then you might just be able to understand a little more what the soul meant in earlier times, not this static blob, not this thing that we throw around like a ball in the air. Oh, this is my soul. Is it here or isn't it here? Because soul loss is another thing we tend to bandy around that term, and in neo-shamanism it's quite strong. Lots to say about it, But I think good exercise is going out to look at the water and is understanding what the water means to you. Understanding that the earth is a whole being with her own emotions. That's what we've got to take into account. Then you get to understand what soul used to mean and what it can still mean today. While many people talk about the soul loss for the individual, particularly in neo-shamanic circles, if we're considering that the earth is a being with her own soul, with her own emotions, we have to ask, does our culture have a soul? Or might it be the case that our present modern civilized culture has lost its soul? Some people talk about soul loss as if our souls are always present. And I find this a little strange because I believe that our souls aren't quite with us all the time as they would have been, just because we don't live the way we used to live. We don't live naturally anymore. So we can't say it's natural for a human soul to live caged up as we do in our homes, in our houses, to live with all the objects, all the physical objects we have around us, all the possessions, all the belongings, and all the frustrations we have in our relationships because we're not living naturally. So when we become ill, or when we feel out of sorts, or when something goes wrong, or we feel mentally drained, we suddenly believe that our souls might have gone missing. This is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. We haven't had our souls, our proper souls, back in thousands of years. We're all clinging on. We're clinging on for dear life. We can encourage our souls to be a part of what life is if we are relating to all that is natural in an ancient way, and if we are looking at life realistically, if we are seeing it all as it should be, as it was in earlier times. I do believe that lots of the things we do in modern times produces the idea of keeping our souls away. A good way to think about it is to remember the equation: soul equals emotion. Soul loss occurs when we move away from what is natural, and we are doing that mostly every day. So yeah, we've got to rethink soul loss. We've got to understand how it, what form it takes. We've got to understand that your soul is present in a natural world. It's present in the other world that is also a natural world. It is present when you are not being and thinking in a civilized, colonized fashion. It cannot exist fully when life is like this. We've got to decolonize our minds, decivilize, decolonize, and that means our thinking. Even if we go about our day-to-day lives, in our work, with our families, doing our shopping and everything, we don't have to think in that civilized way, that colonized way. I had my eyes opened to the workings of neo-shamanism when I was in the US once, and somebody said there was a earth tremor and their cat fell down the back of a cupboard, and when the cat was pulled out, the cat was fine. The woman said to me, "I thought she needed a retrieval." Now, this really raises all sorts of questions. A retrieval, what do we actually mean by that? we've really got to look at this a bit more realistically in accordance with what used to happen in earlier times, and not fool ourselves into thinking that we are helping someone or some person, some animal, by thinking that we can provide the answers for bringing their souls back to them. A cat doesn't lose her soul just through falling down the back of a cupboard. Let's get real. Returning to the water in our souls again, it was long thought that we all came from lungfish, that we originated from a fish in deepest, earliest times. We don't have to believe that, of course, or whether we do or we don't. Again, we're seeing a very watery connection with our origins. Perhaps there's a reason why this is so. I said we become spectators of the natural world. We need to become spectators of the civilized and the colonized world. That is a far better way. A better way round to do it, a better way to think. And you can do that. Just conduct that exercise by going out and looking at some water. Just think about the Earth's water. We've got to remember that the Earth never lost her emotions. It's only humans that have lost their own emotions or lost their own souls. For me, the soul is not about this, nor is it about this. I see that the soul, the souls of all creatures on earth, are all about this. And it only needs a little bit of a shifting of our perspective to see it the way it used to be. Water gives us the power to reflect, which is what we all need so badly today. Water was the original mirror, preceding mirrors by literally millions of years. No wonder ancient people believed that a photograph or a permanent reflection would capture or steal their souls away. When I wrote the long reflection, I wanted to bring the idea of water into the soul and into how we perceive the soul. We could see it that in much earlier times, in the times of our ancestors, we felt that we were part of Earth's water as much as she was part of ours. We're constantly withholding our emotion daily, hourly, and it's not really a good practice, because it doesn't connect us to anything ancient at all, and it also doesn't connect us to who and what we truly are, with what we feel. So it's a good exercise to observe the earth and how she manages her own emotions, and then maybe we can just start to understand not only what our souls are, but where they are.